Wow, you guys really enjoyed the podcast about why I switched over to Evernote. It usually takes, if you're a podcaster, you probably know this. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, file it this way. So sometimes iTunes takes like 12 hours. Well, it's probably like 3 to 12 to pull in a new podcast, like a new episode from your feed. And then it goes like, it's like 36, 48 hours after that before it shows the popularity scores. And I know that's kind of just vanity metrics, but here's how I know that you guys were fired up about like, oh, Evernote sucks, or OneNote sucks, or here's all the things that you can't do. Because if you go to ellerywells.com/goodbye Evernote, there's a bunch of comments from people on both sides of the spectrum that have an opinion one way or another. And it's really funny because I just did a podcast about why I started focusing more on my email list, which was from June 25, which was also a pretty popular episode. But you guys are commenting. If you like that, which I like that, by the way. I like the comments. What I meant was check out that episode. It's the last one. It's the one right before this. And, let me know what you think, because today, we're talking about building a writing habit, how you can create that system for you to be able to create more content. Because the 30-day writing challenge, like if you're, man, that starts in like a week. It starts August 1st. So I'm recording these and the dates are a little bit off, but the dates are a good frame of reference, but that's beside the point. The challenge starts August 1. So if you want to join the challenge, you better sign up as pretty much as soon as you're hearing this, or you go to the blog post, just go to ellerywells.com/challenge and sign up for that, because content marketing is how you will build your business today. If you don't want to spend a lot of money, if you don't want to spend like 10 grand on ads and, billboards and radio and Facebook ads and all that stuff, content marketing. And not only is this writing challenge going to help you do that, but developing a writing habit will help you in the challenge. It will help you in your content marketing efforts. Because look, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't do content marketing. I just talked to a guy named Michael I think he's in Melbourne. I know he's in Australia, and I know Australia is a pretty big place, but I don't know exactly. I could probably like stalk him in my active campaign, but he's in Australia, and we're talking about how I built my business. Did I start with masterminds? Did I start with coaching? Nope. I sold digital products. I wrote books. I was doing personal brand reviews. People would pay, and I would go and I'd look at basically what a hiring manager might find if they were to Google that person. But I got started with content marketing. I would not be here if I did not do the things that I'm talking to you about doing. And all of that starts with writing. I love writing. Whenever I was laid off from IBM, this was years before I got fired. When I was laid off, I started working on a fiction book. And before we dive into the meat of the episode, if you're trying to find something that you can turn into a business, think about what you do in your spare time. And not just like your hobbies. I love video games. I mean, I've got Elder Scrolls Online like paused in the other room so that I can go back to it. So I'm not just talking about the things that you do to kill time or the things that you do to like decompress at the end of the day. What do you keep coming back to? So whenever this was before I had to downsize my apartment when I was laid off, but I started working on a fiction book. I looked at some of my favorite fiction authors, Vince Flynn, Brad Thor. Now I would throw Mark Greaney into that mix. And I was like, this character development, this telling a story, if these guys can do it, so can I. Which, by the way, has been how I've come up with a lot of products and services in my business, is why couldn't I do the exact same thing? So that's a valid way to do things. Anyway, I started creating a story. I started writing. And this was way before the blog was even on my radar, like 3 years before. Yeah, 3 years, almost to the month, 3 years. And I was having this conversation with my mastermind group a couple of weeks ago, and it was just find something that you do in your spare time. If you had all the time in the world, I'd played all the video games. That's why I brought those up. I'd played all of my video games. I'd watched the Alien quadrilogy like 4 times, and I didn't need to do that anymore. I started writing. And if you can find what it is when you have a completely open calendar and get really good at that thing, you can probably turn that into a business if you really get good at it. That's the thing. Most people don't invest the time to get really good at something. And then they wonder why they don't sell anything. But that's why we have a writing habit. That's why I'm doing this this show here on the Ellery Wells Show. Looks like there's an extra space here. I'm just looking at my notes here. But before we go into the intro, let me throw up a little bit of a teaser to you. Most of us, most of the time, operate based on our habits. We drive to school or we drive to work. I said school. I haven't driven to school in so long. I don't know why that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. We do so many things each day because we've done them that way for so long. We've gotten into a routine. Routines can turn into ruts, but that's a topic for another day. But we do things based on habit. We put our brains on autopilot. We do the task and we move on. Sometimes we don't even know why we do things. But if we operate on habits, how do we make positive habits that will help us reach our goals? If you have a goal of writing every day in August with the writing challenge, how do we do something? How do we create a habit so we just show up and go through our routine instead of doing negative things? Like if you just show up and you ate a candy bar every day, you're going to wake up 100 pounds overweight. But if you went and you tell me if you email me this, if you hear me say this. One of my ex-girlfriends got me a book called Pass the Celery, Ellery. And I was kind of mad at the time. But it's relevant because if you got up and you ate some celery, or you ate some fruits and vegetables, or you went for a 30-minute walk every day, it just becomes part of your routine. So how do we make a positive habit that will help us reach our goals? And specifically, how do we develop a writing habit? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Cue music! I'm not one of those entrepreneurs who gave up their 6-figure salary and fancy office to start a business, and I wasn't selling lemonade to my neighbors when I was 7. I wasn't born an entrepreneur, and I never laid awake at night dreaming of owning my own business. My name is Ellery Wells, and I was forced to make a decision. Welcome to the Ellery Wells Show, where we talk with real entrepreneurs about real problems that they're facing and real solutions on how they are overcoming obstacles, achieving their goals, and making a difference in the world. If you're an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, this is the place to be to help you start, build, or grow your business. What'd you think of my illusion? Alluding to what's that guy's name? Simon from So You Think You Can Dance, when he says cue music. I've talked about that before, but it never gets old in my head. And, that's why it's called the Ellery Wells Show. Okay. During one of my mastermind calls a few weeks ago, the topic of developing a writing habit came up. And one of my clients mentioned they knew they needed to write. They were just out of practice and they needed to get back into the habit. So since the 30-day writing challenge that I mentioned before, ellerywells.com/challenge, is right around the corner, I thought this would be a perfect time. I mean, literally, this is starting in a week. So don't wait to sign up for this because I've got a lot of resources to help you get going and prompts. And, I want you to be successful at this. Anyway, since I've got to deliver those to you and you've got to join the community and get prepared and develop your outline and everything, I thought that would be a good time to talk about this with you. So again, ellerywells.com/challenge. So in full disclosure, I'm just being honest here, I do not have a day of the week where I sit down and write. I also don't have, you can probably tell this, I also do not have a day of the week where I sit down and record podcast episodes. I should. Michael asked me that. He asked how much time he should dedicate to a podcast if he were to start one, and I did not like the answer that I gave him, and I told him he should not take my advice because I do things at sporadic times. It keeps it fresh. Anyway, you should have a scheduled time. You should work whenever you don't feel like it, because here's the thing. Real pros show up and put in the work whether they feel like it or not. And I'm a professional writer. Maybe you are too. Maybe you're a professional podcaster. But I'm also a professional business coach. I'm also a business owner. And writing sometimes takes a back seat. You know, they used to say this at Dell all the time. The needs of the business when you couldn't take a vacation because it was the end of the quarter. Anyway. But here's why you should develop a writing habit. And you can skip this. You can skip a couple minutes ahead if you really want to. I wouldn't. But before I share how you can develop a writing habit, let me tell you why you should do that. Writing makes you a better speaker and a better communicator. Writing helps you develop cohesive thoughts, tell more complete stories, and writing helps you articulate what's on your mind in a clearer way. So even if it was just for mental reasons to help you straighten out your thoughts, you should develop a writing habit so you can get your thoughts out of your head. I can't tell you how many times I've been frustrated, and I know the other person was frustrated because all of their ideas were in their head. And when your ideas are in your head, nobody can give you feedback on them. That you've got to get them out, either through talking or outlining them in a plan. But writing will help you do that. Blogging, as opposed to recording audio for a podcast or a video for social media, improves SEO for your site. Blogging improves SEO. Every business needs a blog, and publishing content frequently and consistently will improve your site's indexability. That's a hyphened word, indexability, and drive more traffic to your brand. In short, writing blog posts clarifies your thinking, improves your SEO, and attracts visitors. If you're convinced, good. I've done my job. And again, if I did not do what I'm talking about here, and again, the challenge is the writing challenge specifically. The challenge is going to be a big challenge for me because I've never published that much content ever. But I would not be here if I did not put in, get this, over 500 blogs and podcast episodes. That's a meat of content, and that doesn't even include 293 pages in exit strategy. Anyway, I hope you're convinced because we're moving on. So how to develop this writing habit? Most habits are formed when you repeat a task several times. Going to bed on time is a habit. Picking your nose is a habit. I mean, going to the bathroom 45 minutes after you have lunch, not only is that a biological need, but you train your bodies physiologically to get used to repetitive tasks. That's why, side note, you can OD on drugs when you shoot up in a different environment than the one you normally shoot up in. And I'm not trying to be gross here. I'm trying to tell you that psychologically and physiologically, when our bodies go through a repetitive exercise, we condition ourselves like Pavlov's dogs to be prepared for something. So that's where the drug things came in. I'm going back to like freshman year neuroscience, but that's why if you change environments to do your drugs, that's a negative way. But imagine it was a positive thing. Your body does not go through the same physiological changes and biological preparation that it would if you were to shoot up. This is a really weird analogy. To shoot up in the location that you normally do. So some studies show it takes seven repetitions to make a habit. Other studies show it takes 30 days. But either way, good habits or bad habits, our bodies prepare to do the next thing when we've done the 4 or 5 things leading up to it. So again, habits are formed when you repeat a task or even a series of tasks several times. Either way, however they're formed, habits are built because of repetition. So here's some of the things that I've done over the past several years that have helped me develop a writing habit and publish, like I said, over 500 blog posts, which is nothing compared to my friend and client, John Stolpe, who's been blogging for 10 freaking years. Way to go, John. All right, the first suggestion is keep a list of ideas and topics. And again, I know I've thrown out a couple links to you. You can find links to all of that stuff if you just go to ellerywells.com tongue twister. ellerywells.com/writing habit. No dash, no hyphen, WRITINGHABIT. So keep a list of topics and ideas. I used to keep a list of topics in Evernote. And at the time I wrote this, I was thinking about switching to OneNote, I'm sorry. But I think I am now solidly in the OneNote category. If you want to know why and some of the feedback, go back and listen to the last episode. But whatever tool you choose to use, and it could be a paper notebook, it could be sticky notes, or a notepad file on your computer. Whatever it is, keep a list of ideas and topics that you could write about. Always be just keeping a tally, keeping a list of ideas that you can build on later. And start keeping track of, I said recording, but you don't have to record them like a podcast, but start recording topics that interest you and questions that keep coming up in conversations. Because each person you talk to will likely lead to another topic that you could write about. And after you've been looking for topics for a few days, again, going back to that habit thing, you'll find inspiration everywhere. I mean, when you start, it's like if you're going to buy a red Nissan, you start seeing red Nissans everywhere. It's the same thing with your topics and ideas. You start looking for topics and ideas, you'll start noticing them all over the place. Tip number 2 is set time aside for writing or for whatever habit you want to build. Successful people manage their calendars as if their life depended on it because guess what? They do. Their lives depend on their calendars. If you're going to develop a writing habit, you need to set time aside to write. Surprise! You'll need to prioritize that time so it doesn't get pushed until tomorrow, because we know that never happens, or removed from your schedule altogether. Take charge of your calendar and make it your first employee. Bend it to your will. Own it. Demand that your calendar keep you accountable and make sure you put things on your calendar that you want to get done. Because if you're like me, whatever it is, I set a reminder for everything. Every 2 weeks, I got to set out a check for the guy that mows our lawn. So I got a calendar invite for it. If you're like me, it doesn't happen if it is not on the calendar. So set time aside for it, and in this case, it means writing. Next tip, I think this is number 3, is identify your ideal avatar and reader. If you haven't downloaded my ideal avatar worksheet, you got to go to ellerywells.com/writing habit, scroll down to this section and click the link to download that, because I promise you, you will not regret it. Writing will be much more fun if you know who you are writing to. Can you imagine writing a letter to someone you knew nothing about? It's like your pen pal. Can I say that guy's name? Maybe I'll leave off his last name, but he lived at the time in Czechoslovakia, which is not even a country anymore, and his name was Tomas, and I think it was in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. Do they even do pen pals anymore? I mean, is that even a thing? Side note, random side story, my nephew just turned 1, and my sister had this cool idea of creating a time capsule for him, for my nephew Oliver. And one of the things that my father-in-law suggested was to put a current world map in there. So in 18 years, which I think is 2034, Oliver can open it and see all the things that were current. So we talked about what life is like in 2017, what we expect life to be in 18 years. Long story short, I thought the calendar, or the map idea was really cool, because how many times, think about your life. Think about your life now. 18 years ago, how much is different? How much has the world changed? I remember growing up, the USSR was a thing. And like I mentioned, Tomas, which is what got me on this, Tomas lived in the Czechoslovakia, which is not even a country anymore. I mean, that's craziness. So, random thought, how could you write a letter to somebody if you didn't know anything about them? I know a lot about you as my avatar, as someone who listens to me. You're a lot like Michael, the accountant in Australia who doesn't want to do accounting anymore. And you're a lot like, I feel bad for not remembering, it's for Chris in California, who works for a major IT company. I won't tell you who he works for. And he's the one that emailed me and said, Ellery, I'm reading Exit Strategy, and like you, I'm emailing you from my car because I don't want to go into the building. Chris and Michael are my avatar. And because I know them and what they need, because I talked to them, by the way, I've actually had a video call with Michael, just ended, and I've been on the phone with Chris. Because I talked to them, which, another random side note, both of them said it was cool that they actually got a personal response from me. Like, what else am I going to do? If you're out there and you're not responding to your customers and you want to try to build a business and you don't want to pick up the phone and have a conversation, stop. Either stop now or stop that negative behavior and just pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Anyway, I can create content and talk to you like I talk to you because I know you. I've been in the seat that you're sitting in right now. I've been through the commute that you're in right now that you hate. Anyway, you can't write a letter to somebody that you know nothing about. It would be pretty tough. So to help you identify your avatar, go to the /writing habit and download this free downloadable and printable resource for you to go through and answer questions. I promise you it will help you get more clarity around who you are writing to, creating products for, creating programs for, those kinds of things. Every time you go to create a new product or service in your business, you should use the avatar worksheet that I'm talking about. Every time you write a new blog post, you should know exactly who you are writing it to. When you're doing this writing challenge every single day in August, yes, you're going to do that with me. Or recording a podcast, if you want to do that, or create videos every day in August. Know exactly who you're talking to, even if that person is fictional and only wait for this big word, an amalgamation of several characteristics. So I've got an avatar. I've been usually referring to him as James. And whenever I talk to Michael and Chris on the phone, they were right in line with that. So you don't have to call them James or Michael or Chris or whatever. Maybe I'm your avatar and you're trying to market a product to me. Whatever it is, even if there are characteristics that several people share, you got to know. If you identify your ideal avatar and reader, writing will be much more fun. Podcasting, I'm actually having a blast here. Michael asked me what was the least favorite thing to do in my business, and I said, don't feel bad. I said probably podcasting, but I don't do a lot of things that I really don't like. So it doesn't mean I don't like podcasting. But if you know who your ideal avatar is, if you know who your ideal reader, your ideal listener is, everything that you do for that person and to serve that person will be much more fun. Because you know who you're talking to, you know who you're writing to. And when you know who you are communicating with, it'll be easier to build a habit around, serving that person, or in this case, writing and developing your writing habit. The next thing that I would suggest that you do in order to build a writing habit is to create a content template. And I went into this a little bit in Exit Strategy. I've talked about it a few times on the blog, and it will be a part of the new program that I am working on that will just be phenomenal for people that are trying to get started online. But a content template is like a recipe for your writing. Every time you sit down to write a blog post, have a template to follow. And my template is fairly similar. For sitting down and recording podcasts episodes. Here's that formula. Open, have an image, or in the case of the show, it's the intro. That 50-second. I didn't have a corner office, and I'm whatever. I haven't listened to the actual thing in quite a while. I should probably cut that out, but I won't. Anyway, and then I go into a personal story. I've told you about my nephew Oliver. I've told you about talking to Michael and Chris. And I've told you about the blog post podcast episodes that I have done. And then I talk about a lesson. And then sometimes there's a summary. And then I end the blog post and I end the podcast episode with a question. Because I didn't really want to know the answer. I want to hear back from you. But every time I sit down to write, after I pick a topic from my list that I keep in OneNote, I determine how I want to draw the reader in and draw you, as the person listening, in. What personal story I can attach, how I can make it relevant to me, because, again, I know you and you have told me that you want to hear more personal stories from me. So that's why I really try to not only do I strategically try to make myself more relatable to you as the listener, but I want to let you guys in on my life. Maybe that's the same, two sides of the same coin, and then I determine what lesson that I want to teach based on the topic from my list. And sometimes those are very similar, the same thing, but it's all part of the process. But then I summarize my thoughts, and then I find a visually appealing image, which I have talked about that also on the blog, and that will also be in this super secret program. How do I find images and how I edit them and make sure they're the right size and all that. Then that's the process. But by having a content template to follow, I have one less thing that I need to figure out when I begin writing or creating that piece of content. One less thing to figure out is one less reason not to write. So if you want a habit, make it easy to do that habit. If you want to eat healthier food, get rid of your junk food and surround yourself with healthy food. If you want to get up early and go to the gym, don't make it the gym like 5 towns away. Go to the close gym, even though it's not ideal. Start going there so you get into this habit. So remove the obstacles, and in this case, figuring out the formula or the template that I'm going to use to write means I have one less thing to figure out and makes it easier to do the thing. And you can use my system or you can develop your own, but having a content template will help you develop your writing habit. The next suggestion, find what interests you. Can you imagine writing technical documentation all day? That sounds pretty crappy to me. Sorry if that's your job, which I think a few of you fall into that category, but whoops. I think one of the reasons I hated writing while I was in school was because I was never tasked with writing something that interested me. But then whenever I had the time when I was laid off, I found something, actually I created something that was of interest to me, the world and and characters that I wanted around, and it made it much easier. So when I did do that in 2008, and whenever I started writing Exit Strategy in 2015, my fingers flew across the keyboard. It was very easy to write. And when I finally had a topic that interested me, you couldn't have kept me from writing. So find a subject in which you're interested and dive in. If you're having fun, it'll be much easier to develop a writing habit that you can keep up with. And last but not least, make writing convenient. And I mentioned this just a second ago, but if you wanted to start a habit of working out, you probably shouldn't sign up at the gym across town. You'll never go because it's not convenient, it's out of your way, and it costs gas, and you'll come up with 1,000 different reasons to not go. If you want to start a habit of reading more, you should carry a book with you everywhere you go or buy an Amazon Kindle like Ashley and I did, so it's easy to carry around a bunch of books. If you've got a book handy, you're much more likely to read it and less likely to play on your phone while you do other things in the bathroom. You know what I mean. So if you want to develop a writing habit, you should make writing convenient. You should use Evernote or OneNote to keep track of ideas on your phone. You should carry a sketchbook or a notepad where you can outline ideas. I get, by the way, they're about half to a third the price of the Moleskine or Moleskine books, and they're pretty much the exact same thing. I get them from Amazon, and the brand is called Piccadilly. Anyway, I should put an affiliate link in the post, but I don't have one. But it's Piccadilly. I use the hardback, medium lined ones, I think. Maybe I will update this. Yeah. Go to ellerywells.com/writing habit, and I will link to the exact ones that I buy. Not so that I can make any affiliate income, because I'll make like 12 cents, but there's a lot of different ones, and you got to make sure you get the right ones. It's the one with the orange bar. I think I've taken them all out of the package. Maybe I'll post a picture on my Facebook page or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. So as soon as you hear this, go check out. Let's do it on Instagram, because that'll mean it won't be gone in 24 hours. But scroll down to me holding a notebook. I'll be wearing a white t-shirt. That's the one that you should buy. If you want what I have. Anyway, when you are waiting in line or sitting where, spend time thinking about the habit you want to build, and outline how you can do it, and you will start to build it. And if you want to enter, I'm just going to throw this out here again. If you want to enter the writing challenge that I'm hosting here in August in a week, just go to ellerywells.com/writing habit, and all of the links will be there all up and down the page. So, wrapping up, developing a habit is hard, but it is necessary. Good habits can set you up for a bright future, or bad habits, they can make sure you don't accomplish anything in life. To develop a writing habit, find something that you're interested, schedule time to write about it, and remove the obstacles keeping you from writing. All right, over to you. How have you developed positive habits? Are you going to join the 31-day writing challenge? Again, the link for this, the feedback for this is ellerywells.com/writing habit. Hey, sign up for my email list, because I sent out an email today. I created a new quiz. I think I'm going to start doing more and more quizzes, because they're fun. They're fun to create, and they're fun to take. But I sent an email about this to my email list just a few hours ago, and I haven't looked to see. There's a bunch of people that are clicking on this. Click through. I need to see if I can see what the results are for this quiz. Yeah, there's a bunch of people that have clicked through onto this quiz. Anyway, I emailed my email list, and if you aren't on my emails, or I'm on my email list, you don't get my emails. So I would love to see you. So 13 started, 12 finished. There's social shares. Let's do the full report. I need to look at that, because that was a fun quiz. Do you think like an entrepreneur? Anyway, I emailed my email list about it, and you should be on that email list, because I want to tell you all kinds of things that will help you build your business. Anyway, it's almost 6 o'clock, and the weather was over 100 degrees. Man, I guess if you really wanted to know what the weather was like in Round Rock, Texas, you just listen to the end of the Ellery Wells Show. Anyway, I'm out. Have an awesome day. Thank you for listening to the Ellery Wells Show. I'm your host, Ellery Wells. Go do something awesome, like subscribe to my email list.